how beautiful it is in Shabbat, except in Buffalo in October. It has been quite a rainy October, hasn't it? The Federation had a gathering for their internal staff over at Greg's U-Pick, which is somewhere out there in Clarence. And they have a little creek area, and it's almost like a river now. It's quite unbelievable. We don't realize just quite how much rain, except if you go on the soccer fields, then you know. Let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air as we breathe in all the amazing things and maybe forgettable things that happened to us this week. Every day, every hour can be so packed, and this is our opportunity to unpack quite a bit. So we take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out, just reminding ourselves of our humanity. We hold on to one or two things we want to hold on to and let go of a few things we want to let go of as well. We have Bruce Corris back. Welcome, all the way back from Texas, our largest state in the mainland, I guess.
Howdy.
And home of former cantor Sharon Colbert as well.
That's correct. Shabbat shalom, y'all. It's good to be back.
Wow, in just a week. That's amazing.
And welcome you all who are here on this lovely evening. It's nice to see so many of you who braved the elements to come on out on, as Rabbi mentioned, yet another rainy Friday night. The cantor has not been pushing me for us to be out in the parking lot this month, surprisingly enough. But we have a lovely service planned this evening. We got the rabbi, we've got the cantor, we've got Paul. It's wet out there, but it's dry in here. And with our roof, sometimes that's not the case, but this week it's dry in here. So enjoy a lovely Shabbat service. And I'll be back a little later with the announcements. We got a lot of stuff coming up in the next week or so. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Now, Bruce, we definitely missed you last week, just so you know. I've been wearing a mask that I'll have on periodically during services. It does have the Hebrew word tzedek tirdof, which means righteous, righteous, pursue. It is made by a rabbi, actually. There's a rabbi who's gone into the business of masks, and I do believe my Hanukkah one is on the way as we speak. It has dreidels on it. There's like 10 choices. It's crazy. All right, let's now turn to page 142. We'll welcome in the angels of Shabbat. We could always use those angels.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'Chen Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Parchoni Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Saint Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malachei Amalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I can feel the angels amongst us, and I also just want to welcome, we do have virtual visitors as well. I hope they feel just as present as those in the room, and hopefully a little drier than we are. We're going to turn to our candle lighting on page 120, And I see over here Adrian and Linda, and Adrian's been away for a little while. Can I ask you to come over and light our candles? It's no, it's like riding a bicycle. Adrian said, I hope I'm not rusty, but no, it's all easy. And it looks like our mic is a little high for you. It's meant there for Bruce. So I guess if you get near it, it's probably okay.
I don't know how to do it, so we'll sing up.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are the candles and the people that light our way through Shabbat. Adrian or Linda, if you could just lift up that empty cup, one of these days it will be filled again. And Cantor is going to lead us in the blessing on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava u'ratzon, inchilanu. Zikaron le'masei Bereshit, ki hu yom techilah le'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher yetziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. I'm so grateful to have Linda and Adrian there because before we had this pandemic, they were pretty regular at lighting our candles, and it's really nice to have them back as a team, especially. Why don't we welcome in the bride of Shabbat, who is over there in the back, always waiting for us, page 138. With L'chadodi, we'll sing the first and the last verse, and I understand this is an Ashkenazi melody. wave to one another. We remain standing for our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu, page 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vaed.
At the top of 147, let's read together in the English, and we're using the Mishkan Tefillah prayer book. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. There is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. And we'll continue with the Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto
You may be seated. We continue the V'ahavta, page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Elohim mitzavlecha hayom ha'levavcha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibortam bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shachbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot hayatecha ve'hayu letotafot beinenecha u'chtavtam hamezuzot beitecha u'vish'arecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotziti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'hiyot lachem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Page 155, please join with me in the English. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We continue in the spirit of love on page 161, the left side of the page. Let there be love.
You guys can keep singing the English. Thank you. Big round for the whole room. If you don't know it, it's easy to learn. We'll sing it and then you'll join in. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Try with us. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. This is Paul's turn now.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're going to turn to page 164. Invite you to rise. Why don't we do the beginning of the Amidah out loud through page 170? If you're able, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, Eloyom, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zacher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Gebura Lifnei V'Nehem, Le'ma'an Shemo V'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh Hakol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morib HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim V'Chesed, Mechayeh Hakol V'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Novim V'Rofei Chodim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Mi Kamocha Ba'al Kivul. מצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקיים הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוה סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue with our private prayers through page 179, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. I'd like to read the words from Isaiah on 179. I think these are important, particularly today. And then the gloss by Yehud Amichai that's right below it. Lo yisagoi el goy charav, lo yomadu od milchama. Nation shall not take up sword against nation. They shall never again know war. Don't stop after beating the swords into plowshares. Don't stop. Go on beating. Make musical instruments out of them. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first. That was an addendum that he added to his original poem that's not included here. We're going to continue with our prayers for healing. And first, Cantor is going to, she has a new melody, so just be aware. It's based on the words El Na Rafana La, Rafana Lanu. And I don't know, page 677. It looks like we have it in the prayer book there. I'm going to read our list for healing, which is always longer than we'd like because heart is so heavy with so many different names of people that we're thinking about. We send out hope and healing to Gail Ackerholt, Dr. Stan Bratton, Ebony Burse, Noah Camacho, Karen Cooper, Peggy DeLong, Arthur Dezelke, Faggy Fox, Sue Frank, Charles Garfinkel, Michael Getting, Irene Green, Reed Hefner, Nancy Hersbrun, Paula Jones, Barbara Lamb, Gail Lewis, Gwen Lowinger, Larry Max, Jean McGarry, Helene Mesh, Ryan McGowan, Jennifer Milich, Cantor Penny Myers, Cheryl Pratt, Mary Rumez, Charlene Ripsick, Mimi Shapiro, Don Sherman, Rosemary Varner, Fred Vanette, Meg Wagner, Anita Wiesel, Jeffrey Winnick, Mark Yablin, Elizabeth Jeezy Yeager, Christine Zalowiski, Chana Ezra Ben Shua. And if you have other names, feel free to offer them.
Roger Mark Healing.
We bring all of those into our heart. Again, we're on page 677, and this is Moses' famous prayer for Miriam, a little adapted.
So I'm going to sing some English verses that isn't in the book, but you just repeat after me. Any questions follow the sound of Linda and Adrian, who will be chiming in. So when I sing a phrase, you sing it back at me. And the chorus is the El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Lanu, all of us. Heal all of us. El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. Here we go. Dear God of our ancestors, help us renew our faith. Grant us the perfect healing. Bring peace to all our days.
Bring peace to all our days.
And na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. Try with me. And na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. Restore strength of body
Strength and body.
and clarify our minds.
Clarify our minds.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Refresh our timeless minutes.
Rejuvenate our light.
Rejuvenate our lives.
And na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. And na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. Thank you for all our blessings
Thank you for all our blessings.
throughout our days and nights.
Throughout our days and nights.
We celebrate the journey,
We celebrate the journey.
this precious gift of life.
This precious gift of life.
El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. Try with me. El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu. El Na Rifa Na La Rifa Na Lanu.
Now, Cantor, do you want to tell us anything about the melody, how you found it, and where it's from?
A friend of mine asked me to help her work on this song, that she needed to do a prayer for healing at a special gathering. And she had sent me something else that I'd written to the composer about, and the composer never sent me the materials that we needed, like the written sheet music. And then she said, what about this one? So I said, oh, I love it. So then I purchased the music. Then I listened to the composer, Todd Herzog, his rendition of it, and the phrasing was completely different than the sheet music. So I struggled with this for a few days, trying to notate what he was doing in reference to what was in the music that I had written. And then finally around, what time did I text it over to you today? I was going to say 3. I had let's say, broken the key. Well, what do I want to say? Give me the
You
expression.
solved the equation, right?
Solve the equation. I sent it to Paul, and he gave it his thumbs up. And I love it. And I hope you love it too. And I hope that we could use that as, not just always doing the Debbie Friedman, which is gorgeous, but to mix it up with this too. So I'm hoping it sticks.
Well, I love it because I don't think any other synagogue in the area is doing it. So
Nope, I don't think
it's
so.
unique for us. Wonderful. And it is based on the book of Numbers, the Hebrew there. It's probably translated, it's a little bit adapted, but it's what Moses has said when Miriam, his sister, is struck with leprosy in the book of Numbers. I think it's like Numbers 19, something like that. And he is told by Aaron, maybe you should pray for your sister. And he says just 5 words, El Na, which is please God, Rapha Na, please God, heal, please heal, La, her. And then we added the Lanu, which in the Hebrew means all of us collectively. It's beautiful. Debbie Friedman and I should say Dror Settle, who is our local here, they were off to an event, I think in the early 90s. It's not been that long, actually. And it was I forget what it's called, a Age of Wisdom event. They tried to have this new ritual when you turned 60 or 70. They would have a ritual for you, and they decided they needed a healing prayer, and there actually were no healing prayers anywhere. And I do believe on the car on the way down, they created the song. So it was out of need, and it clearly just hit a nerve. I mean, I think outside of like Oseh Shalom and a couple of other prayers, it's probably the most popular melody in American Judaism. Just up there, because it's needed. You want something when you go visit someone, or healing is just such a basic instinct. So kol hakavod to them for thinking of it and just being able to spread it. And then countless artists since, often using this El Na, Rapha Na La. I have a number of friends that have written melodies from it, have taken it and tried, because that taps into this older tradition, which is always nice. Vanessa Oakes, who I think she's in University of Virginia, she talks about ritual, and she says the first rule when you're trying to create a new ritual, and she likes to do this, she actually does it with her university students, is to tap into something that's old. And if you can tap into something that's old, it will come to life in a different way. And we see this in American customs too. Okay, so tonight I want to talk about something a little bit serious, important, I would say. And it relates to the sheets you were given out. We will use those at the end after I'm finished speaking. And it has to do with 2 of the most important, monumental adaptations that the American Jewish community has gone through in its entire history have happened in the last 3 years. It is impossible to fathom. 3 years for most of us, maybe not my 8-year-old, doesn't feel like a very long time. 3 years seems to go by in an instant. Now, of course, when we unpack it, it's a long time ago. But 2 dates stand out in particular. March 13th, 2020, of course, that is the date that we're still in transition and hopefully moving on the other side of, we keep saying that. And hopefully a lot of the things we've adapted, we might be able to pare down eventually, which would be great. The other major event happened 3 years ago on Wednesday, October 27th, 2018. Most of us here, we remember that day vividly. It was the kind of day, sort of like March 13th, when something happens, you get word of it. It might not be impacting you directly, and slowly you are coming to terms with it over the course of the day. It's amazing how it happens. this often happened. This happened with Flight 3407 when I heard the news. I remember opening the paper thinking, this is just terrible. And then an hour later, finding out about Susan Whaley and realizing how it impacted not just the Jewish community, but the entire community, and just the level of tragedy, it would just get more and more. And the same thing happened on October 27th, 2018. Actually, I was here. I see Jill, who was here somewhere. I thought, there you are, Jericho. Jill was sitting there. It was probably about 11:20 when my phone started buzzing. And I don't normally, but that was back when we actually met in person. We've only met one time in person in 2 years with our Shabbat morning group. We were in what was then called the Ganinu room. I don't know what it's called now, maybe the L3 room, LE3 room. But we were sitting in there, and I got not just one buzz, I got 10 buzzes at the same time. So I thought, let me step out of the room. It's rude for me to look at my phone in the room, but I'll excuse myself for a second. Went outside the room and found out dozens of people were writing to me about what had happened at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. And it was definitely the kind of thing whoa, that happened? Then you start thinking, on Shabbat? At the service? You don't even know. We didn't know initially how bad, and it was terrible. The names you see on the back, which we'll read, those are the 11 members of the community that were killed. And it still seems very unfathomable. And over the course of the day, an amazing thing happened. It happened, Cantor, Johan, Todd. I don't know, was Todd present at the time, Bruce? Bruce was still here. Bruce had just become, but Todd, our immediate past, and now current, was in Israel. They were all in Israel, along with almost every single major leader in the area. And we were really short-handed. It happened to be one of those days. But we knew that we had to do something. And luckily, we live in the type of community where we're never really far removed from people. I love that you can reach out to anyone. In our cell phone days, you just start clicking away and suddenly you have the right people. And basically, over the course of a few hours, we came up with a plan, which was to meet at Nina Lukin's house at 8 o'clock right after Shabbat. And Nina was one of the chairs of our Jewish community relations, or I don't even think it had started yet. We were just in the beginning phases of it. So we met at her house with about 10 people throughout the community, and it was really random. We had Marlene Schillinger there, who was the head of Jewish Family Service at the time. Not Molly Carr, sorry. Molly Carr is the new director. We had Sammy Bart, who was the interim rabbi at Beth Tzedek at the time, a number of members of some of the smaller Orthodox communities. And it was just like a collection of people that came together. And we knew that we had to figure out what we were going to do. And in the end of the night, we were arguing about it because we were confused, and it was really unprecedented. This was the most major attack we had ever faced as a community, the largest attack on a Jewish facility. And so we decided we were going to gather at Beth Tzedek. Beth Tzedek and Gettsville Road at the time were in Northtown. They've now torn down the building. Go by Gettsville. It's amazing. They're really doing a lot of construction back there. We decided we were going to meet there on Sunday evening. So this is less than 24 hours with every major professional, including executive directors in Israel. We decided, and that was one of the reasons we weren't at Shir Shalom, by the way, Joanne. I don't know if you knew that, but we didn't want to, I didn't want to even go near Shir Shalom without our executive director. That was a no-go. But it was symbolic anyways, because we were saying goodbye to that building anyways. And I said to everyone, well, maybe we'll get 50. I mean, we're going to put out word. How many people are going to show up? Over 500. I'd say 550 people, 600 people. It was so many, it filled the entire sanctuary there at Beth Tzedek, And everyone was in the hallway. It was unbelievable. People from Sikhs, Muslims, every Christian community, politicians. It was like amazing and incredibly stressful. I was actually up. I was the one on the bima that was in charge of trying to figure out and coordinate speakers. Nina was below, texting me on my phone, saying, I think we need this speaker. We had like a rough outline. We had called a bunch of people to get various voices, and we were trying to just piece together. And it was just like, we have a community here. We have a community that cares about each other, and it's going to be there in a moment's notice. It was really one of those moments where you say, it's so special to live in Western New York, and it's so amazing that we've had, that I personally, but lots of the Jewish community has relationships with so many other communities, and that we can call on them whenever we need. And that's just an amazing story. I tell you the story because in this week's Torah portion, Abraham is not in the same problem, but it's a big problem for him. It's the very first time he has to ask for help. Abraham is a little bit of an independent character, if you haven't noticed. He walks, he goes, he kills, he does sacrifices, he does all these kind of things. He doesn't really listen to anyone but God. You know the type. And Sarah has her own thing, who's in charge of, and this is an ancient couple, but we can relate to this even today. Sarah was in charge of logistics in the household. Abraham was in charge of logistics out of the household. And Sarah dies. Of course, we know, maybe from a broken heart, from the sacrifice of Isaac or the near sacrifice. But regardless, suddenly Abraham has a real problem. He has done no pre-planning. And this is not just like today. We're lucky. You could call up Joanne there, and if you didn't do any pre-planning, we could get you, call any of the funeral homes, we'll get you set instantaneously. We know exactly what to do. There is no funeral homes back there. He doesn't even have a place to bury her, right? And that's where his challenge starts in this week's Torah portion, right? He has to find a place. And he has been looking, in his head, he thought, well, when the day comes, Ephron, who's one of my neighbors, he has this great cave. And I know in my family, we have a tradition of burying in caves. Maybe I'll ask Ephron. I don't really know him very well, but I'm sure we can, negotiate. I have all that money from Pharaoh, so I'm sure we can come up with a plan. So he goes over to the Hittites, that's the family of Ephron, and he asks for the burial plot. And we know what happens. It is one of the most beautiful interfaith experiences in all of Torah. That and Bilam's donkey. These are the two most important interfaith experiences where we realize we need each other. He goes and he asks for it, and they say, we don't even want to charge you. And Abraham says, no, I want to pay the market value regardless. And they work out a deal, and the receipt is in the Torah. Just open up there to Genesis 19, and you will see the ancient receipt for the land of Israel. Now, that story should be, by all accounts, one of the happiest, most important stories. But we know this cave, Ma'arat HaMachpelah, it's called. It's in the city of Hebron. I've actually personally never been there. Has anyone been here? I tried to stay away from it. Every time I've been in Israel, it's been a little bit problematic. I've been through 2 intifadas during my trips there. So I didn't really care to go down to Hebron, which is one of the more contentious. It's called it's called the land, but it's Jerusalem's the fire city. But it's really the one where they battle over the land. And this cave actually has barriers, apparently. I was reading in the Plout. It talked about how there's barriers around it. And there was a former church converted to a mosque that's also a synagogue. You get the idea. Let's see, it was 1994, Purim Day. I was in Israel at the time. This is probably one of the reasons why I don't like Hebron at all. On that day, we had the biggest single Jewish terrorist attack in the history, and maybe since the Maccabees, we'll say. And it's really immense. I actually looked up the numbers, and it is quite crazy. 29 Muslims were killed. 125 worshipers were wounded, seriously wounded. If you can imagine, it was probably pretty packed in. It was on a Friday, their holiest day. And Dr. Baruch Goldstein, who was an adherent of Meir Kahane, so I'm embarrassed to say, when I was a high school senior, I actually went out to hear him in Philadelphia. And there's a new book on him if you're interested. And he went, a doctor, Dr. Baruch Goldstein, went and he mowed down 29 and wounded 125. And he took that place that is a place of cooperation, and he made it into a place of destruction and death. When we look at the story of Abraham and his burial of Sarah, we could look at the actual story, which is a heartwarming story. When we look at what happened on October 27th, 2018, we could look and see a heartwarming story of how our community and the community behind us came together and showed that we're not alone. Or we could think about the gunman, and we could think about the tragedy, and it is an immense tragedy. I was talking to Miriam Abramovich this week. Susan Schwartz did a beautiful memorial, and actually I borrowed from her material for tonight. And Miriam lived in Pittsburgh, and her parents were there, and it touches deeply. There's a new book, it's called Squirrel Hill, and it has all the stories. I'm afraid, to be honest. She said it's beautiful, but a little afraid to read about it. I did know one of them, Jerry Rabinowitz, a wonderful, hardworking person, and really tragedy. A Buffalonian, we'll call him. So when we think about that, I think we should think about what came together. What came from that? The Jewish Community Relations Council here in Buffalo. All of the Amherst police that have come here night after night after night because they believe in our community, they want to protect our community. All the various measures, and hundreds and hundreds of people locally, and millions possibly around the country. We've revamped everything. It was not easy. It was as big a change as the pandemic, but we did it. And we did it because we believe in each other, and we had the backing. We had the backing of our government as well. I should say a lot of our funds also came through that. So as we're thinking, let's not think of death only, also life. And may that place, the place of that we buried Sarah and the patriarchs, Abraham eventually as well, may that be a place of life too. Maybe one day I'll try to visit it and try to not feel that horrific day when I was in Israel in 1994. So let's read this poem. It's by Alden Solovoy. I got to hear him at the CCAR, the Central Conference of American Rabbis, over in Cincinnati a couple of years ago before the pandemic. This year we get to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first woman, Sally Prezant. But I was over there, I took one of their classes. He's kind of like a small guy, and he was talking about how he was doing his poetry, and everyone was like, ooh, ah, now I kind of get it. So he does, for lots of events around the world, he creates liturgy. It's very fascinating. This is an acrostic prayer that says Tree of Life and Pittsburgh. And why don't we read it together, and then why don't we read the names, thinking about these really amazing community. They could easily be here. The quality of people, just amazing. Tree of life, revive our souls, enrich our days, entreating your blessings, O God of peace. Fill our hearts with comfort, letting your Torah shine in the fullness of our love. Faith in you, our God, eternal source of blessing. Praying for healing in the depths of despair, thanking God for the survivors, thanking God for the first responders, sorrow crushing our hearts, bereaved beyond belief, united in our love, returning to you in faith,
God of Israel, healer of generations, tree of life, Redeemer of Israel, enliven this moment with healing, enliven this moment with hope. O Rock of Israel, forget not the Jews of Pittsburgh. Let your love flow in the days ahead for justice and peace everlasting. And we'll read their names on the back, and Cantor has a memorial song. Jerry Rubinowitz, 66, of Edgewood, Burwell. Cecil Rosenthal, 59, of Squirrel Hill. David Rosenthal, 54, of Squirrel Hill. Cecil and David Rosenthal are brothers. Bernice Simon, 84, of Wilkinsburg. Sylvia Simon, 86, of Wilkinsburg. Bernice and Sylvia Simon are husband and wife. Daniel Stein, 71, of Squirrel Hill. Melvin Wax, 88, of Squirrel Hill. Irving Younger, 69, of Mount Washington, city of Pittsburgh.
Page 583. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and the warmth of summer, we remember them. We remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, they are there, they are there. For as long as we live, they too shall live, as we remember them. For they are now a part of us, as we remember them, as we remember them.
Zikronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. I invite you to rise for Aleinu, page 586, if you're able.
עלינו לשבח ולדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
You may be seated. I have a poem here. Sheila Bernard Tucker here sends me wonderful poetry. This is in honor of her mom, whose yard site is tonight or this weekend. Who am I? Who am I? Where did I go? The little girl who would cry for her mommy in school. Did she ever really not know? I would tiptoe behind her as I left school, following her home when she would leave. I'd say, but Mommy, I missed you, as tears streamed down my face, and then tug at her now wet sleeve. Before she died, she confessed she always happily knew I was right behind her all the while, as that she had missed me too. Who am I now? A parent, grandparent, missing her mommy still, but now I tiptoe in her shadow. I guess I always will. In loving memory of my beautiful mother, Rose Eisgrau. Beautiful. That's a very touching one. So we're going to turn to our Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. We did have a number of losses recently. Gloria Berzone, who is the mother of Keith Berzone. She was 93 years old. And there will be private, the actual in-person event is private, but I do believe it's on Mesnikov's page. It'll be streamed on Sunday morning. We also had a loss in Linda's family here. Tom's mother died, Virginia Bergman, and was learning about her and her wonderful spirit before our service, and may her memory be blessed. Linda said the whole family got to go down and really share stories and find comfort with each other there. There's another loss. There'll be a funeral on Monday. Michael Carl Berwick. He was only in his 70s. I don't know him very well, but I'll be doing the funeral on Monday. And then Gary Sloan also passed. Oh, I didn't know about that. Is that connected to you? No, okay. Gary Sloan. On our Shloshim list, we're remembering Laura Hess, Robert Caton, Peter Q, Doris Sirota, Sheldon Macon, Yvonne Stocker, William Truhant, Eric Weiner, Mindy Weinman. And our yard site list from years past, we remember Phyllis Barish, Walter Bluestone, Charles Cassover, Rose Cassover, Yvette Robinson Chutkow, Norman Cohen, May Chorus, Rose Eisgrau, Daniel Engel, Lee J. Edelson, Reva Finkel, Nancy Frankfurt, Ann Fried, Max Fry, Jack Friedferdig, Yefim Gelfer, Ann G. Godschow, Edith Goldstein, Morris Heskins, Annette Himmelstein, Florence Kaplan, Donnie Kirsch, Carl Klein, Meyer Chorus, that's with a K, Adele Levitas, Lawrence G. Littman, Robert Mesh, Max Mingle, Frida Modick, Carolyn Nash, Rose Nosnitsky, Bessie Ostreicher, Miriam Radlin, Norman Rosenthal, Harry S. Rubin, Harry S. Russlander, Sylvia Adler Sapphire, Pearl Scheif, Sam Sirota, Mary Shavat, Esther Sheik, Carl Silver, Lee Singer, Philip Slepian, Yetta Strauss, Sidney Sugar, Stanford Sugarman, Leah Tepper, Nathan Unher, Arthur Wasserman, Irving Weiner, and Benny Weissman. May their memories be for a blessing. If there's other names you'd like to offer. And if you have anywhere in cyberspace, let us know. Oh, I just remembered who Gary Sloan, it was a young person, about 43, who died 2 days ago. He was a friend of one of our congregants. Those of you whose custom it is to rise, please rise as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'yalmad yivrach hirtei v'yamlik malchutei v'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael v'agala v'yizman kariv v'yamru amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam almei almayah Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh
v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudashah, b'rechu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, tamiran v'yalma v'yimru amen, yehi shlama rabbamin shemaya, chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen, O says shalom b'mramav, huya says shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and we say amen. You may be seated. Zikranam levracha, may their memories always be for a blessing. When I add the v'al kol toshvei, that's all the people of the earth, and most of the newer prayer books add that now. Bruce Goris, come on over, our immediate past president, to offer our announcements.
Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. Some nights it's just nicer than others to be together, and tonight, thinking of 3 years ago, how many times did you and I talk that day?
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Bruce was on my list.
You, Rabbi, had been a rabbi, how many years by then?
Oh.
A lot of years.
I was still 14 years.
But it still didn't prepare you for that. I had been president for 3 months, and suddenly this happened. And it's one of those dates you will never forget. And remembering how our community came together is something that we will always remember. It's what makes us such a special place. So, Mazel Tov to Levi Kapakov for his upcoming bar mitzvah tomorrow afternoon. Thank you, of course, to Rabbi Alex Cantor Frank and Paul Staley for such a really nice service tonight. The music was so special tonight, very meaningful. So thank you for that. Thank you to our ushers tonight, Sheila Bernard Tucker and Rich Tucker. Thank you to everyone who RSVP'd for the service. It's so important that we have a good head count. It allows us to plan for seating and the Onig to go and service leaflets and everything else. So thank you for that. Thank you also to everyone who volunteered and or purchased Shvetas this past Tuesday. We appreciate your support. Those Shvetas fundraisers are so important to us. We'll be back on Tuesday, November 16th from 4 to 7 or until sold out. You can, of course, visit the website to place your pre-orders and save $1 per meal. And, of course, that's a drive-through. Thank you also to everyone who either volunteered, donated, or shopped at the Women of Shir Shalom rummage sale this past Sunday. It was a lot of work by a lot of people. But it was a very successful event for them. And when the Women of Shir Shalom have a fundraiser like that, it allows them to do special things for the temple. When we do a Shvetas, that money goes right into the general fund, and it pays bills and things like that, which, don't get me wrong, is important. But when the Women of Shir Shalom are able to raise money like that, they support causes that we couldn't ordinarily do out of the regular funds. So it helps to make this such a special place. So thank you to everyone that helped out in that. I have a note there somewhere. There it is. Okay. Let's see. Speaking of the Women of Shir Shalom and their fundraisers, they're going to do another Becker Farms fundraiser. Homemade pies, cookies, fudge, and jam. It was a big hit last year. Don't miss out. Delivery will be just in time for Thanksgiving. The order deadline has been extended to November 5th, so that's next week. See the website or talk to Sheila tonight after services. And, oh my God, the Women of Shir Shalom are everywhere. They're going to be meeting on Wednesday at 6:30 via Zoom, so join them for planning and friendship. Next Friday, Erev Shabbat services will be at 7 o'clock p.m. here inside our sanctuary. The gift shop will be open prior to services from 6:30 to 7. Sue Frank will be there to help you with Hanukkah items or anything else you might need. Thank you to Larry Posas for bringing light back to our eternal light. The ultimate symbol of our faith, and it's so important to have that. So thank you to Larry. We're going to continue to evaluate all events and protocols on a week-by-week basis, and as we need to adjust, we will, always having your safety first. If you need anything at all, please feel free to reach out to the rabbi, the cantor, Joanne, Todd, or myself. We are here for you. Shabbat Shalom. We want to help yourself to the, oh no, really? Help yourself to the Onig to go. Thank you to Ed Fine for sponsoring the chocolate chip cookies. And I think I know what that is. Thank you.
We wanted, Bruce, last week we did miss you, and Joanne got you your favorite cake.
My strawberry shortcake. Thank you.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
even have to guess which one it was.
Of course, of course. Yeah, this was a milestone year, 65. I know, don't you say, I don't look anything like that. Speaking of milestone and anniversaries, real quick, as I've mentioned previously, this month, as we end October, is the 62nd anniversary of our very first service in this building. It was next door, it was over there, that was our social hall and our sanctuary at the time. I did, you'll appreciate this, I did some digging through the archives.
Wow.
I found some interesting things about that first service. Mark Nightinger and Marcia Bougie were here that night. They were our toddler ushers. You didn't know we had such a thing. Jenny Pohl was the office volunteer that week. She typed up the service leaflet. And there was a baby naming that night. It was Todd Sugarman. They gave him a Hebrew name. They gave him a Hebrew name that meant future president. Go figure. Anyway, milestones in our temple. Thank you, Joanne. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
He had me for about 1 second. I was like, I don't think people can get in the archives, but that's very impressive. Now, Robin there, she knows how to get into archives. Actually delivered, we got a great gift from Melissa Puyas, Melania's daughter-in-law, and that was from one of our first cantors at Temple Sinai. She found all this material just randomly. Anyways, happy birthday, Bruce. Thank you, Joanne. And I think that we are now ready to go to the end of our service. We have Gesher Tsar Ma'od, a very appropriate prayer by Nachman Abraslov, page 643. It's a narrow bridge, but we shouldn't be afraid.
Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od.
Chala Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. As you came in peace, please leave in peace. Please take your prayer books and take the little leaflets out of them and return them out over here. We do have some Halloween candy on the way out. Shabbat shalom.